The Asian markets declined, and this despite a positive close on Wall Street on Friday.
Two more deals coming in for Reliance Jio. L Catterton as well as TPG has decided to invest into the company.
Not a market in which you want to take aggressive directional call. You want to scalp this market, you want to trade depending on the risk reward where the market's open.
It's 0.7 down, about 75 points now, 70 points.
Now we have just over 1,000 of our 1,400 stores open.
We are looking at all the other subsidiaries right now to see whether that subsidiary would be turning around profitable in the next, say, year, 2 years.
We have had a one-time derivative accounting gain of 100 crores.
We right now are at the low point of the day.
Affordability is a huge issue. And if by importing tariffs you are only raising the cost of the cars, sales will come down, industrial growth will come down.
Very little of our capacity is up in the air, demand is weak, so we don't expect that. And I don't think anyone expects us to be turning a profit soon.
The market is down about 184 points.
Okay, that's been the day so far. As we start the last hour, the market's seen a smart recovery once again. In fact, the Nifty has climbed almost 130 points from the lowest point of the morning. And if you take a look at the Bank Nifty from the low of 19,740, it's almost a 400-point recovery that we have on the Bank Nifty. The market is still down, of course. That's because it's tracking global cues, and Europe is down. Dow futures since morning have been down quite a bit. Asia had a weak close. So in that sense, the market's fighting weak global cues. But amidst all of this, there's been some recovery, and the mid-cap market once again has outperformed today with the advanced decline still in favor of advances. Let's see what the last hour brings for us. Surabhi, hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Anuj. Yes, I mean, the volatility is really quite permanent on the screens these days, isn't it? I was also tracking that international recovery that you're referring to, Anuj, because, I mean, at least right now, Europe is trying to bounce off. But what do you make of this? Because some of the financials are trying to sort of pull back. There are stocks like Maruti that are well off the morning lows. So how does one negotiate a market that's getting increasingly choppy?
You know, today is the kind of a day where, you know, the market would have punished people on both sides. Or you could argue that if you got the boundaries right, you would have made a lot of money. It's that kind of a market, Surabhi. So, you know, like we discussed in the morning, the market's not given us a verdict yet. It's got itself into a very large boundary, which is 95.50 on the way down and 10,200 on the way up. And in this boundary, it will have these kind of big moves, what the market is doing right now. So let's see what the last hour brings for us. This is reminiscent of the last hour that you had on Friday. Though, of course, on Friday, we had a stunning recovery. But through the day, the market spent time, you know, on the way down. But now we are seeing a sharp pullback. I think this pullback is also being led by some of the banks. You know, names like IndusInd Bank, for example. HDFC Bank has started to recover quite a bit. You know, this is very confusing market to me. Honestly speaking, I've not been able to figure out, you know, the move that the market wants to make. It's almost like a, you know, time cost, Surabhi, because globally as well, we don't know whether this is just a pause or a halt in the global rally. I was listening to Mark Mobius. I think he was making some very interesting points. So right now, I think it's a market which is in a bit of a flux. It could go either way. I know it doesn't help anyone, but I'll be truthful and honest. I've not been able to figure out much of what's happened today, except for saying that perhaps this market is still in a range and still trying to figure out the next move.
Okay, so let's see how this move progresses, because right now that pullback is gathering more and more steam and strength. So it promises to be an interesting last 1 hour to the start of the week. So let's kick things off right here on Closing Bell. The market is well off the day's low as weak global cues continue to weigh on the street, but international markets also pull back a bit. Private banks have been dragging the Nifty, but of course there is some recovery in sight at the moment. Mid-caps fare slightly better today. We'll discuss all of these trends with the fundamental experts, SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com and Dilip Bhatt of Prabhudas Leeladhar. We have lots of opinion coming your way as well. How does one approach a market that's getting increasingly volatile? And how does one deal with this entire talk about the possibility of a second wave? We get you views from Rajat Rajgharia of Motilal Oswal Financial Services. They're also holding a conference. And Dheeraj Agarwal of Ambit weighs in on the road ahead. Along with all of this fundamental opinion, of course, trades coming up and trading ideas for the last hour with Ashwini Gujral and Mitesh Thakkar.
Okay, in fact, let's start the show with the technical advice, both from Ashwini and Mitesh. Good afternoon. Ashwini, again, the market's recovering from the lowest point. What have you made of today's move, and what would be your last hour calls?
Well, let me reduce your range to 95.50 to 99.50. Basically, today has been an inside day, and an inside day often means that you have pretty fixed boundaries, and beyond that you get follow through. Now the issue is, if the US starts to show follow through, below Friday's lows, then all of this recovery will come to nothing. So I would think this is more choppiness than any big upside movement. Basically, you had Dow futures down 950. 950 becomes 650. So, some shorts here and there, they try to cover. But I don't think big, large stocks are moving in your direction. It's those weak stocks, Dewan Housing and, ONGC type of stocks. So that way, what you want to do is buy into a GAIL with a stop around 97, target of 108. IndusInd Bank is a buy with a stop of 490, target of 520. And ICICI Bank you can buy with a stop of 320 and look for targets of 345.
Okay, those are calls coming in from Ashwini. Let's bring in Mitesh as well. Mitesh, how are you looking at it? Because this recovery, I'm sure the bears would have been hit hard on the other end today.
Yeah, that's right. I think, see, again, this is a market which I have time and often said it's not a weak market. We had a 1,200 point kind of a rally, and then we gave away about 550, 600 points. So you kind of retraced 50% of the gains which you made. So I think that's normal. So as long as 9,700 is not being taken out on closing basis, I think I would be very comfortable holding on to long positions, even adding more on declines like we had today. And on the upside, it might just chop around between 10,150 to about 9,700, but eventually I think it will break out on the upside. This is subject to 9,700 not being taken out, and we will see targets of 10,350, 500. I think that's what I am looking at. So for the time being, maintain long bias. What has happened is in the last few days, the mid caps have started kind of coming back into strong action, and that's where I think you can look to buy into. So I've got two mid cap pharma names. Jubilant is a buy with a stop at 644, targets of 715 here, and Alembic is a buy with a stop at 69 for targets of 82.
Okay, by the way, just look at this market volatility. Surabhi, this is the point I was making. From the time we finished our answer, the Bank Nifty from 20,105, the Bank Nifty future has moved to 19,920. It's almost a 180 point drop that you've seen in just one candle for the Bank Nifty. If you take a look at the Nifty as well, from 98.72, which is when we started the show at 2:30, to 98.20, there about 50 point drop has happened in one 5-minute candle. It's telling you the kind of volatility that we have at this point in time. We have SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com and Dilip Bhatt from Prabhudas Leeladhar now joining us. Good afternoon. Mr. Tulsian, I first wanted your thoughts on some of these large banks, Axis, ICICI, HDFC Bank. I'm not including, IndusInd in this list, but the others, the kind of decline that we have seen today, what do you make of it?
So, you need to focus on three banks, HDFC, ICICI Bank and Kotak. And this is what I've been saying for last 3 days, that you need to see you are going to see the huge good quantity of selling to be seen happening in these three stocks. And if you see the volume, maybe as of now, the delivery has been marked in case of ICICI Bank of over 1 crore shares. I don't know where the selling will stop, but this is definite that FIIs are seen quite desperate in exiting from all these three stocks because they are seen to be quite high. In fact, if I just give you the data point on Friday, where we have seen the ICICI Bank having volume of about 78 lakh shares, for the entire day. And till now, we have already seen the volume of about 1 crore shares, over 1 crore. And these selling, if continues like this by the FIIs, because for the last 2 days, DIIs have been coming to the rescue, maybe to salvage the market or to give support, because they always seem to be quite prudent. When the value corrects, they come and buy the stock. So yes, the weakness, because there is no point in including the IndusInd Bank in this stock, because that has been moving for the other reason. Though that stock has also gone in a grossly overbought zone, which will be seeing the profit booking. But I think if the selling continues in the HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank and Kotak, we may see further weakness. But I think that in my view, that selling should come to an end either by end of the day or maybe by tomorrow in the second half, because from thereafter the market will go into the oversold zone, and I'm expecting the positive bias maybe for Wednesday and Thursday for this weekly expiry. This weakness may be continuing because this is what we have been warning from Wednesday last, and which has continued from Thursday, Friday, and maybe continue till tomorrow in the later part of the day, or maybe for the entire day. But for Wednesday for Thursday are seen to be positive.
Okay, so Mr. Tulsian is expecting some positivity to come in the latter half of the week. By the way, interesting moves on tech stocks underway. Look at Wipro right now, 4% higher, days high, surging away Wipro. And it's not alone, it's got company in the form of HCL Tech. There is also some positivity on a TCS. TCS is still negative, but it's trying to fight back. So IT seems to be finding some favor this afternoon. Dilip Bhatt of Prabhudas Liladhar is with us. So let me take that question to Dilip. Good afternoon, Dilip. Thank you for joining in. Now, it's interesting, all this talk of H-1B visas, the clampdown on them, protectionism, etc. But clearly the market has moved on well beyond. Where does IT fit into your scheme of things in this market?
Good afternoon. I think two things. One is there's a lot of noise about H-1B visa which is being made. But as we all know, that there is no clarity as such as to what the government intends to do. That is the US government. But clearly, a large unemployment points towards a direction that there could be some curbs in the H-1B visa. That's the logical conclusion one can derive, and especially this being the election year. But having said that, I think IT as a pack has two sides to be seen. One is the Nasdaq is doing so well. So logically, even Indian tech stocks should also be doing well, because India has been broadly following, Indian markets have been broadly following Dow Jones and the Nasdaq. So in that sense, it is good. But at the same time, the weakness in the dollar index suggests that the IT companies can get capped upside. Having said that, I would still think that Infosys, HCL, TCS will continue to be a good play in terms of providing defense